At the start of 1 Samuel, God's people were in a complete mess, doing whatever evil they wanted to, because there was no king in the land. Then we zoomed in on a woman called Hannah who cried out to the Lord for help. And God answered her by providing her with a son called Samuel. Hannah burst into a song of praise, saying, "My heart rejoices in the Lord. There is no one like the Lord. There is no God like our God." But her song finished rather strangely, saying, "He will give strength to his king and exalt the horn of his anointed." But there was no king. When Samuel grew up, the Lord used him in extraordinary ways, the most extraordinary being this: the Lord revealed himself to Samuel through his word, and his word came to all Israel. But God's people ignored his word and so treated God terribly. Instead of worshipping him and being ruled by him, they treated him like a lucky charm to be toyed with instead of worshipped. And so, to bring them to their senses, God allowed them to be defeated terribly in a battle by the Philistines. And the ark of God was captured and taken into the Philistine country. But there, the Lord defeated all of his enemies, the gods, rulers and cities of the Philistines, because the Lord alone defeated his enemies. The Lord was Israel's perfect ruler. But even so, God's people still rejected him as king. They said, "We want a different king." They put it like this: "We want a king over us. Then we shall be like all the other nations, with a king to lead us and to go out before us and fight our battles." And so, although it displeased God, he gave them the king of their choosing, Saul. But Saul ignored God's word, so God rejected him. Samuel put it like this: "Because you have rejected the word of the Lord has rejected you as king." The Lord went on to choose and anoint a new king called David. Now, he wasn't the most impressive person in his family, so it would have been easy to miss him. That's because people look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. And David's heart trusted the Lord. And so God chose him to be the future king. Now the Philistines were back to fight God's people, and this time they had a 10-foot tall giant called Goliath to fight for them. Everyone was terrified to fight him, except little David, who thought, "I can beat him, because the Lord will give me strength. And then the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. It's not by sword or spear that the Lord saves, for the battle is the Lord's." And that's exactly what happened. With a slingshot and a pebble, Goliath was defeated. Thump, 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 boom, bah, gum. Pretty much from that moment on, Saul was jealous of David and wanted to kill him. So David ran away. But the Lord always protected and provided for his anointed one. Now, not everyone treated David, the future king, like that. For example, Prince Jonathan, who was Saul's son, and most people expected to be the future king of Israel, loved David. He loved him so much that he promised to be on David's team. He gave him his sword, his spear, his royal robe, and even his future crown. Jonathan said, "The Lord witness between you and me, and between your descendants and my descendants forever." It wasn't just Jonathan that went to David for protection and provision. His family, David's family, came too, but it wasn't just them. There were all sorts of others, waifs and strays, desperate men, foreigners, and all of them received God's protection because they'd come to God's king and said, "I'm with him." But it wasn't that way for Saul and all who were with him. They all died in a terrible battle. So there you have it. 2 kings. To which king would you say, "I'm with him"? The king God chose, or the king man chose?